Hello.
Hi. It's all
How
about
is
the
your
angle,
day
sweetie.
going? Yes.
Um, it's going well, actually. It's going
Oh,
really well.
good.
Didn't travel today, so it's a nice day. I get to stay home.
I know it's been really hard because I've been like, I need you on my show. I need you on my.
Well, I mean, I'm super fortunate that I've been able to travel. So
Right,
studios,
right.
I've been able to do it. So I've really, um, I was burnt out, honestly, for a while. You
Yeah.
do it so much and you're on the road all the time, and I was burnt out. And then COVID hit, and I got a
Hmm.
forced vacation. And
Right.
then but I did help me to reconnect with how much I love what I do.
Yeah.
So
Well, let
now
me
I'm
give
just
you a
grateful.
proper introduction really quickly, 'cause for those of you who don't know who we are and what we're doing online, this is Keri LaGrand, and I
Hi,
am
guys.
so excited to have her on because I know so much about like what you've done, but I've
Mm,
never had a chance to actually be like, boom, let's just chat it out.
right.
And you mentioned, that you've been touring, so or traveling on Tremaine Dance
Hmm.
Convention Tour. But you have so many credits that I don't have, all of the time, to go through them. But just some highlights, working with J-Lo, working with Gloria Estefan, working with
Hmm.
Madonna,
Yeah.
so I could just leave it there. But right now, you're working with up and coming, dancers, on
Hmm.
these conventions and giving them your advice, your stretch and strength,
Mm.
all of these things that you know how to do and are imparting this knowledge on all these kids across the country. And obviously you travel worldwide when we can. So
Mm.
what exactly has been, the biggest thing that you've seen in this shift that we've had from pre-COVID to during, because I can't say we're post yet because we're still in the thick of it.
Yeah, right. Gosh. I'd say the pace has changed. So the pace was getting, for me, and I think for kids with dance and with conventions and with school, the pace was just going, going,
Yeah.
going, going. And I noticed a lot more injuries in the past year or two in dancers, in their hips and in their backs. And I feel like when COVID hit, everybody had to slow down for a second.
Right.
And I actually think even though we didn't choose it, I think it was a blessing because we all
Yeah.
had to slow down and take care of our bodies for a second and
Yeah.
re-communicate with ourselves and refocus what we wanted from
Hmm.
dance. And that's what I've noticed dancers are a lot more grateful. They're more excited to be in class now. They are more attentive. They're not checking out as much. They're
Hmm.
they're recommitted to their training, which I think is a blessing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Recommitting to training and understanding what we are all taking for granted most of the time,
yes.
is this, hey, I'm just going to go to the studio or I'm just going to work it out with, so and so. And now it's
Hmm.
like, hey, can we even get together?
Right.
you
Can
know?
we even go to the studio? And
Yeah.
can we even do that? And also, I find a lot of dancers have reconnected with the idea of what dance does for their body. Because
Yeah.
without it, I mean, training at home it's difficult,
Yeah.
honestly. Dancing on your hallway floor or on your kitchen floor and trying to do floor work and jumping and all that, it's not the same as being in a room and traveling and working
Yeah.
a full warm up into a full class. And I think dancers this generation didn't really understand the value as much,
Hmm.
in my opinion. And I feel like after COVID, they come in and they're ready to work, man. They are like,
Right.
let's go. Like, let's go and get me back in shape. And I want the strength again. I want that feeling again. And,
Yeah. Well,
so
so
I've noticed that.
when you are yourself, like how have you been spending this time? Like, what are you doing to get through?
Wow. Well, it's a mixed bag. I do a lot of yoga, honestly,
Oh,
just because it's the one thing I can do in my house where I'm still stretching. And I've been doing a lot of reading of like Brene Brown and people like that who really talk about courage and versatility and humbleness. And so I've been getting in touch with learning again.
yeah.
So, I love to learn, but then you get to a point where you're doing so much, you're teaching so much, you're choreographing so much, you're responsible for the inspiration of a lot of people.
Hmm.
And then I didn't have time to feed me.
Yeah.
So I really have been taking more time to do those things that feed my spirit so that
Yeah.
I can be more of a service to the dancers.
Yeah. Well, so I know that you are doing the traveling. what exactly precaution wise, like, do you see, are you getting on planes? Are you driving everywhere? Like, what are you doing?
I am one of the kind of, I say brave, some may say crazy. I am flying, but
Okay.
I find flying doesn't really, bother me. Everybody kind of sticks to their own
Yeah.
space.
Right.
You go to the airports, a lot of things are closed. The airports are very empty. When you get
Mm-hmm.
on the plane, everything's sanitized. I wear a mask. I'm
Mm-hmm.
wipe down all my entire seat. And then I just get on my little phone and mind my business. And I feel like
Right,
most
right,
people are just pretty much doing that. I think the most interesting part of traveling has been going to the studios
right.
because you have to teach in a mask. I have to
Mm-hmm.
choreograph in a mask. So you're spending 10 hours a day in a mask trying to
Mm-hmm.
choreograph. And then it's so interesting with dancers because if they wear a mask in class, you don't realize how much you rely on this part of the face for expression.
Right.
Because when they're in class and you're teaching and you're into it and you're like, okay, is everybody good? And they just look at you like this. And you're like, I don't know what that
I don't know.
means. I can't
Do
tell with your
something.
eyes. Smile with your eyes, please.
Right.
Yeah, so
Smize isn't that what
smize.
Tyra Banks used to say?
Yes, the smize needs to be retaught because
Exactly.
you can't tell. It's hard to tell where their emotions are.
Mm-hmm.
And even in choreography, it's changed. There's some places I go where we're not can't do lifts because they're just not at a place yet where they want to get them that close together.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some places I go where they're a little bit more relaxed, but I always keep my mask on because I am traveling a lot, so I'm
Right.
accountable for a lot more people.
Right.
But
Right.
and there's some places that they can't even clump up in a piece of
Mm-hmm.
choreography. Like we just have to pretend they're doing a clump.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting around the country how it's different from LA because LA still is very. Are you based here? I forget where you're
Yeah,
based.
I'm in LA. Yeah.
Okay, right. So here we're still closed down
Yeah.
quite a bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
no, can't go to the restaurants, no bars, no studio. A lot of studios are still closed
Wow.
because they're considered fitness. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to go around the country and see the different reactions and the different coping mechanisms.
Right.
And studios really, I feel for studios because they've had to completely change their protocol. They have to do temperatures for kids when they come in. They have to
Yeah.
mop down the floors in between every class or every piece of choreography. They have to,
Yeah.
sanitize consistently. So it's been a big challenge for studios.
Yeah. Well, I do know, like, just on a general, I'm an average person going into the supermarket, and I have my 6 feet window between me and the person at the checkout behind me, and I'm grateful for that.
Right. And those
So
plastic things, the plastic boards that come
right.
down.
So there are some things that I hope stay, and
Right.
then the rest of it, being able to give a hug. I went to an interview the other day, and I wanted to just hug the person,
I
just
know.
because that missing contact.
I know. And that energy exchange, right?
Exactly.
And that's really hard for me with dancers too, because when I see them, I just want to throw my arms around them, or when they're done with class and they've done
Exactly.
something courageous, I want to like pat their shoulder or do something, and you go
The
towards me
fist
like, oh,
bump
sorry,
is
sorry.
not like enough anymore.
Yeah, and the air hug doesn't work.
I know,
So
I know. Well, and we're doing this virtually, so I send virtual hugs to everybody I talk to. So, what do you see? I know that obviously on convention is one thing. When
mhm.
you you're teaching online too, correct?
Yes, well, convention hasn't been. The convention world was really rocked by this
Mm-hmm.
because it's a ginormous group of people in a room sweating and being, interacting with each other. And that's certainly, had to change.
Mm-hmm.
So the convention world is really working hard to adjust to that to be able to still take care of its clients
Right,
and be able to
right.
have events. But for me, I immediately started doing online coaching,
Mm-hmm.
private work, because
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite things to do is work individually with dancers and
Mm-hmm.
coach them on what they need to get their training to the next place. That to me
Right.
is really gratifying. I enjoy that part of it a lot. So I started doing online technical privates from
Which
my
is
living room.
awesome. Well, so you're a master educator. So what do you
Oh,
see
thank
as
you.
some of the things that maybe teachers who are not used to teaching online are sort of like the best practices that you've kind of, come up with in this time where you're coaching online and doing those one-on-one, not hands-on, but virtual on, coaching sessions with people that you're not seeing in person, or maybe it's the first time that you're working with them, so you
Yeah.
don't have a sense of what they can do because they're not really full out, or what are some of the best practices that you can offer to first time online teachers?
I really think one important thing to do is to ask the dancer what their goals are, is to communicate and with the dancer more, and to have them be accountable for what they're hoping to get out of it. Because
Right.
especially if I don't know the dancer, or if I'm not sure why they're seeing me, because there are a lot of people doing what, you know, we do, then I always like to say, okay, what is unique about this for you? What are you hoping in the end? What's your end goal with this? Because
Right.
then it helps me to shape it better. So I
Mhm.
think the communication with the dancer is so important. Also, I think it's important as far as helping dancers to make sure that they, and it's really difficult, but to make sure they're in a space where they're the only person in their household who's on the internet.
Yeah.
Because you know, there's a delay, and with the delay,
Yeah.
it's really tough because you're like, oh,
Yeah.
did you? Okay, yeah, there you got it. Like you have to like spend a lot of time waiting and try to assume, especially if you're working with them on a piece of choreography. You know,
Mhm.
there's a slight delay. So I think with the dancer on the technical side, it's making sure that they're the only one that's
Yeah.
connected to their Wi-Fi so that they can get the best streaming.
Right.
I also think um, getting the dancer to talk is so important. So instead
Mhm.
of just like in a class, I can just teach a class and they don't have to, they say yes, no, yes, I have it, no, I don't, but they can show
Mhm.
me. But I think it's important to teach the dancer about communication. Do
Yeah.
you feel this in that muscle? Does that feel different or does it feel the same? And getting them to respond more and be accountable for
Mhm.
communication is so important
Yeah. Well,
because
I
I
feel
can't
like
help them if they're not telling me where they're getting, what they're doing, what they're feeling.
right. Well, it's different. It's definitely different to ask for the two-way conversation,
Mm-hmm.
because normally you're responding with the performance is the
Mm-hmm.
response, right?
Yeah.
So if there is no response, then the talking is the next best thing. How is it, when we're talking about lingo, what words are you now using that you weren't using before? Because I know that that people are like,
Oh.
maybe the technical aspect where people are saying, is your volume on? Turn your sound on. Like when you get into a meeting, right? What are
Yeah.
some of the technical terms that you've added to your online teaching vocabulary?
Um, wow, that's a good question. I certainly have been more focused on the word feeling versus thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working a lot with dancers because I find, especially with all their schoolwork being online now, a lot of them
Mm-hmm.
are virtually doing school. And then if they're not doing that, then they're doing social media, and they're really heavily in their heads. And so
Mm-hmm.
instead of, I used to be all about the smart dancer, and I still love a smart dancer,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I've really transitioned more into touch the part of your leg where you feel this, or
Yeah.
tell me how that feels different in your body. Do you feel more straight up and down? Do you feel like you're leaning forward? So I'm doing a lot more spatial awareness conversations with them and
Mm-hmm.
asking them to be specific about where they're feeling things and not
Mm-hmm.
just what they're thinking about doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of dancers I find these days get very much so far in their heads, and it doesn't translate down to their bodies.
Right, right.
Right.
When you are in person, let's say
Mm-hmm.
the next gig you go to and you're teaching, do you speak the same way, or do you
I
take those words into the in-person version of your classes?
Yes, actually, it has changed
Yeah.
and transformed a little bit in how I speak in person with the dancers because I find with the mass in class,
Mm-hmm.
I tell them I cannot see your thoughts. And I want you to be smart and I want you to understand what I say, but it doesn't matter if I can't see it in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a different conversation as far as getting them to be more understanding of physicality and
Yeah.
less about trying to understand concepts. And I feel like this generation really is all about, they're very mental about concepts, and
Mm-hmm.
they're very much like, and they know all the words, right? So like, well,
Mm-hmm.
my right delt should be doing this. I'm like, well, that's great, but do you feel it?
Right.
That's awesome. And I love that you know those words, but now we have to actually translate it into a physical feeling.
Yeah.
So that has changed how I teach in person too.
Yeah. Well, so what do you see as the next step for this whole process? Do you think that, I know it's exhausting, right? What do you think we're going to be doing? Are we hybriding after this is over? Are we fully, getting back offline? Or what do you think is going to stay?
I think we're gonna have to hybrid
Mm-hmm.
for a while because I think, with everyone's different in what they believe
Mm-hmm.
and what they choosing, what to believe about what's happening. And so I think we're gonna have to hybrid for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think that it's gonna have to go back to like a smaller experience and build again. Like I think we have to go back to the basics, you know, like
Yeah.
studio intensives and smaller events. And then as things start to, it's like it's starting over. It's like a rebirth.
Yeah.
I really think we're going to have to. And I think dancers, every studio I go to, they get in class, they're like, yes, we're in a class. So I know they're dying for convention. I know they really want to get in a room with other spirits and like
Yeah.
feel inspired. But I do think we're going to have to do it in a very measured way to take care of everybody's health and to take care of us, and just to make sure that, yeah, I feel like we go too fast into it, it'll backfire, honestly.
Yeah. Well, so as far as your projects,
Mm,
you've been there and done that, and I
yeah.
always ask everyone this question as my end question, which is what? Oh, that's so funny. My daughter gave me a My Little
Oh,
Pony
cute.
sticker, and I totally forgot.
I love
Yes,
it.
that's a My Little Pony sticker. Well, so what exactly are you? What's on your bucket list that you haven't done that you want to do?
Mm. Ooh, that's a good question. I would like to teach more internationally.
Uh-huh.
That's certainly on my bucket list. I also very much love the idea of artistic directing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do that a lot with Tremaine because I direct the show,
Mm-hmm.
and I direct our teen program. And so I really would like to explore more artistic expression as far as video work and artistic directing and creating in that way. I've always loved to direct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've always loved steps. I love steps, and steps are great, but I like the overall picture of things. I like to
Mm-hmm.
see if it's going to move somebody, if it takes you on a journey, if it's, you know, and those are the things that I love about dance, about going to see performances and watching
Mm-hmm.
dance films. So I really like to get more into that,
Yeah.
ideally.
Well, I do think that there's going to be an explosion of artistic everything in
Yes, ma'am.
2021. So, put it out there and manifest. Let
I
it
believe in
simmer
that for
in the ether.
sure.
Right. Well, so I appreciate you taking the time with me today. And I wish you nothing but the best and safe travels for sure.
Same to
And then
you.
just keep me posted as far as like any movie musicals that you're artistically directing. I'm
Okay.
happy to, plug them for you. Even if it's outside of dance for sure. Because,
Okay.
I really feel like, I look at people like Ryan Murphy and I'm like, you are in like the horror genre, and then you're in like
And
the
then you just
movie
Fosse.
music. Yeah. And like, yeah, like Glee and like, so I feel like people who are artistic can transcend, those boundaries. So I
For
see
sure.
you as not just staying in that genre of dance specific to artistic direction,
Mm.
but well beyond. So let me
Well,
know what
gosh,
you're
I
up
love
to.
your vision of me. Thank you. I'm gonna borrow that.
No worries. I'm here for you every day. So
Thank you.
just let me know what you're up to, and I will post this and tag you for sure.
Perfect. Have a fabulous day, and I hope to see you actually in person at some
I know,
point.
virtual hugging.
Virtual hugging.
Okay, bye.
Mwah. Bye.
Bye.